osteoporosis and osteopenia or osteoarthritis. Now, what happens? All of these are weight related issues. That means the more my body is heavier, the more my knees cannot support my body. Okay. So weight has always been an issue because obviously if you're not following a healthy diet, no physical activity, muscles are weak, muscles are sagging. Okay. As you age, your muscles are going to become even more weaker.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Due to what all reasons? First is bone health. Bone, as we age, calcium absorption decreases. Whether we have a diet rich in ragi or anything, the calcium absorption itself decreases. How many of us go and get our vitamin D tested? Till today, I don't think a person who is not visited a nutritionist or a health health related care provider has never done their vitamin D. And vitamin D is very important for calcium absorption. And
I personally very strongly feel that your life after 60 should be the best time of your life ever. Why is that? Because you have more time, a lot more independence, mostly financial independence as well, less stress. And this should be a time when you should be really able to enjoy, travel the world, do whatever you want to do, right? But the reality is quite different. This is a time characterized by having to battle with a lot of chronic health conditions, diabetes, hypertension, basic challenges around your health, like having knee pain, osteoarthritis, etc., etc., right? Which basically ensures that you're not able to really enjoy your time after retirement or your life after 60. But what if there was a better way? That's exactly what we'll be discussing today with Vaishali, who joins us in another episode of Changemakers. Vaishali is one of the very seasoned health coaches, nutritionists, and clinical dietitians in the country. And we'll be discussing how you, in your life after 60, can really lead the best life that you want to lead and ensure that all of these conditions or health challenges do not bother you. You can prevent them. And in case it happens to you, what can you do to really reverse these conditions and improve the quality of your life? Let's dive right in. Hi, Vaishali. Thank you for joining us again on the NutriPal Changemakers. Great to have you back. I hope your injury is healing fast and getting better soon.
yes, definitely, much better.
Awesome. So Vaishali, today's topic of discussion is fit after 60, right? How do global Indians stay fit after 60? Given that I feel that currently, and this is not just confined to India, I think globally the quality of life after 60 is organically very very low, right? There are literally so many issues around health, around loneliness and other challenges as well, right? But the fact remains that if you really try to delve into each of these issues and try to figure out how these can be reversed or solved, I think there are some very very clear answers. It's just about driving that behavior, right? So but what I feel is that it's even more important for the elderly to take care of their health and really be obsessive about it than the youth, right? Because that's a stage of life wherein you've really screwed up a lot of your health, and uh, you can actually end up having a very very poor quality of life. So that's what we'll be talking about, and I'll ask you a lot of questions and try to get a lot of gyan from you so that some of our listeners can absorb that and maybe forward it to their own parents who might be at this stage of the life and could be very very useful for them, right? Uh, so as always, we'll start with a quick rapid fire, right? I'll just shoot a few quick questions and then we'll dive right in. Right, so first one, what's the biggest myth that the elderly have when it comes to health?
That I cannot muscle build. I cannot build my muscles or reverse my condition. I need to rely on medications. And it's high, I mean, I'm old enough to do
Hmm.
something. So age is
Basically,
always in the
basically the mindset that things are irreversible now, it's too late. Makes sense.
absolute.
So arthritis, osteoarthritis, these are some of the conditions that are very, very common. Can these be controlled or reversed to any extent?
Absolutely, absolutely. All of them, osteoarthritis, calcium related disorders, wherein your bones are actually receding, they're removing all the calcium, everything can be reversed. And it's true, it's absolutely true.
Got
So
it.
I'll
Got it.
let you know in the session.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So next is top three downsides of being obese or overweight, right? So obviously aesthetics is not on our minds, right? Obviously, it's so if I'm a 60 plus person, there's obviously everybody knows that there are so many chronic conditions that attack me if I'm overweight or obese. But what are the top three reasons why I should be really worried if I'm overweight?
Diabetes, high sugar levels, hypertension, that is high blood pressure, as well as it's going to affect your bones. So any kind of arthritic related issues, osteoporosis, which will lead to excessive falls and fractures as you grow older. So these are the
Got it.
top three.
And these are very common, I guess, very, very common. Like pretty much every
And
other elderly person has that. Okay, cool. Next one is it's it's practically very, very tough for a 65, 70-year-old to transform my body. So, theoretically it's okay. You'll talk about the science and all, right? How I can do it. Practically it's very, very tough because it's too late now, right? And my metabolism is slower. My body does not respond to lifestyle changes easily, right? So practically I think it's next to impossible, right? Is this true or false as a health coach? What's your view?
it's absolutely false. I'll just explain the entire idea of metabolism. What is metabolism? It's the way your body digests the food, right? So the faster your body is able to digest the food and metabolize it, that means whatever I'm eating, 100% of it is utilized. Okay. But if my metabolism is slow, then whatever I'm eating, hardly 40 to 50%, not even 50% is utilized, and the rest is converted and stored as fat. Okay. So what is increasing metabolism? The more I am able to increase my muscle mass. Your body consists of three basic parts: your fat, your muscle mass, as well as your body fluid. Okay, so we'll just focus on the fat and the muscle mass. If the fat is higher, your metabolism is going to be slower. If your muscle is higher, my metabolism is going to be faster. So can we increase this component and decrease the fat percentage? Yes, we can. And this can happen at any age. And this myth I want to clear from everybody's minds, that age is not a factor. Okay. Definitely we can work slowly and steadily to reach to that stage, but increasing muscle mass can be done at any stage. Only requirement is your energy, your commitment, and your dedication, and your trust in the entire process will definitely get you there.
Got it. Last one on the rapid fire. Who out of the following stakeholders would be the most critical when it comes to reversing this or getting a paradigm shift in terms of the health of our 60 plus population? Doctors, the government, or the kids? Who's the one stakeholder who will really influence it the max?
I think it's the kids first, because they can see their parents being happier, healthier, more energetic, and the life expectancy can increase, and the old people can start taking care of themselves rather than relying on the so-called millennials of this generation who just do not have time, or tend to have less time. And definitely the government, because you can it means the medical expenses will be much lower, and they can have an elderly population who also contributes to the community in various forms. That one age of population which is not contributing to the community can also actively contribute in different ways, even by extending their time in the public and the private sector contributions that they're doing.
Completely agree. I think again full marks on the rapid fire, Vishali. Uh,
Oh,
but one thing that really I think stands out for me out of this quick rapid fire is that it's something that I personally believe strongly. It's the kids that influence a lot of their parents' health once their parents are 60 plus, and the kids are obviously adults and who are financially independent, right? So just to cite a personal example, यहाँ पे, uh, so both my mom and dad used to be not so healthy. In fact, I think in their 40s they were headed towards a lifestyle that in the next few years would kind of start showing them the chronic conditions and all of that, right? So I am fairly proud of you know doing some drastic initiatives to really change that course, right? So I sat down with my father. This was 6 years back, and I just told him ki weight training, strength training, regular workouts, it is all the more important for you than it's for me, right? and there were a lot of myths that he had कि यार मैं weights क्यों उठाऊंगा, it's I'm 45 48 50 now, 50 actually, right? So I busted those myths. I forcefully enrolled him into one of the gyms near my place, and last 6 years I think he 80 90% of the days he's been regular to the gym. He's not only lost about 20 kgs. He used to be quite overweight, right? So he's lost 20 kgs, obviously looks younger, feels very light. I think he's gained substantial muscle mass as well, right? So and I think that's the best gift I have been able to give to him. And I'm personally very proud of my father with this consistency, right? So that's one. And even with my mom, right, she actually I think her habits around lifestyle and nutrition have been really bad all her life. On top of that, she's a sweet tooth, right? So whatever bad habits you can think of, having a lot of sugar and not controlling portion sizes, having anything anytime, being sedentary, all of that applies to my mom, right? So but the last 4 years I've ensured that she's enrolled under a health coach for constant monitoring, so that sometimes I directly talk to the health coach just to know कि चल क्या रहा है, and then I कभी कभी डांटता भी हूँ मैं मॉम को कि यार what is happening, right? So I'm very proud of that kind of intervention. I feel that that's really resulted in a lot of improvements. So I think completely agree. It's a lot of it is on the kids to actually do it, right? So Vaishali, I'd love to start by getting into a bit more detail around this entire set of challenges, which include knee pains, structural issues like joint pains, knee pains ho gaye, osteoarthritis, arthritis, right? So I think all the friends that I know, pretty much every friend ki mom has these issues. Not so much the dads, I guess, right? But definitely the moms have these issues, 70 80%, right? So and this is not like something that happens at 65 70. I think this starts right after 50, right? Would love to understand what goes on behind this entire, if I would say, epidemic of all 50 plus, especially the women having these knee bone joint pain issues, osteoarthritis, and how to fix these, not just prevent these, but also once you have it, how to cure these.
So, like we know, a generation before us, the entire concept of healthy living had actually not sunk in. Now we are getting aware that the sedentary lifestyle is leading to all these problems. But I think they were very well accustomed to a pattern of living. The woman had a role, the men had a role. We have to get permanent jobs. We have to settle in our life, get children, and so they had different stages what in life they would go through. And many women have never walked in their life, and men have always been in the grind of generating more money for their family, for their livelihood and things like that. So they never paid attention to physical activity or to what they were eating. They were following a very traditional pattern of eating. That is obviously because our land, or like in India, cereals are more commonly found. Okay, so we tend to have a lot of cereals. We're not used to a lot of raw vegetables, so we use a lot of vegetables in our cooking. And thankfully, North India is more blessed with pulses and lentils. But again, in South India, we have that thing of lentils and pulses being in scanty or used less in cooking.
Yeah.
So where would the protein come from? So there are a lot of factors that actually contributed to this pattern, and women had to do a lot of work. Even the women had to move through a stressful life, joint families, a lot of responsibility. So the entire focus was being taken away from them. This is just putting in everything into perspective. So now going into osteoporosis and osteopenia or osteoarthritis. Now what happens? All of these are weight related issues. That means the more my body is heavier, the more my knees cannot support my body. Okay. So weight has always been an issue because obviously if you're not following a healthy diet, no physical activity, muscles are weak, muscles are sagging. Okay, as you age, your muscles are going to become even more weaker.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Due to what all reasons? First is bone health. Bone, as we age, calcium absorption decreases. Whether we have a diet rich in ragi or anything, the calcium absorption itself decreases. How many of us go and get our vitamin D tested? Till today, I don't think a person who is not visited a nutritionist or a health checkup, health related care provider has never done their vitamin D. And vitamin D is very important for calcium absorption. And by nature, though we are in a tropical zone, our bodies do not absorb vitamin D, as we all know. As Indians, we do not absorb a lot of vitamin D. So vitamin D, calcium is not there. So the entire haddi, the structure on which the muscle is standing is weak. So how is your muscle going to get supported, right?
True.
So hence it's going to put a lot of pressure on the knee. Third, very important thing is, like I said, no physical activity. The muscles are not getting contracted, expanded. How many of us know that we have a magnesium deficiency in our bodies? Do we even eat magnesium with food? Okay, how many of us eat seeds and nuts every day? I think they're very
Very few.
scanty in diets. Okay, so no magnesium. Magnesium and calcium both are important for muscle contraction and relaxation. That is also not happening. Okay, so these are several factors that can actually contribute. Last factor is collagen. Now, collagen necessarily is mostly found in non-vegetarian foods like your chicken broth, beef broth, fish, especially fish bones. We do not, as majority, if you would see 60-70% of our population is vegetarian, and now even non-vegetarians are shifting to being vegans and vegetarians. Okay, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. But at the same time, your collagen in your joints, or the fluid that flows in between your joints, wherein you're able to move the joints this way, that is going to get destroyed after a certain age. It is going to get depleted, like your skin gets depleted. Skin also has collagen. Your skin gets depleted. Body after a certain age is going to stop generating that collagen. So you need to give it from outside. Okay. Sorry, one more point to add last. So collagen for vegetarians should be supplemented in the diet. Other very important thing is omega-3. Again, omega-3, we get it through vegetarian sources, but it is not very effective in absorption. So omega-3, which is the most absorbed, is from fish. Again, may come as a sad news for vegetarians, but if you want to get your knees healed, you need to have omega-3 from fish to fish oil, meaning your joint, or oil for lubrication. So these are some things which you can get started with. After obviously consulting a healthcare provider or a nutritionist.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So just to sum it up, I think micronutrient deficiencies, degrading muscle mass, which is obviously happening when you don't move around, when you don't use your muscles, and when you don't have enough protein. And third thing being you being too overweight, because ultimately the knees are the ones that are kind of carrying a lot of load, and naturally if you are 30 plus BMI and very high body fat, it'll get tough for the knees to actually function properly. So
corrosion that happens. If suppose you have a metal which is there for a very long time, it gets corroded if you're not lubricating it, right? So it's as simple as that.
Makes sense. Got it. So Vaishali, so personally, I have firsthand seen a lot of health transformations of elderly people who are 60, 65, even sometimes 70 plus. Right? To quote a few examples, I think one of our biggest success stories at Nutripal has been one of our members who was she was set for a knee replacement surgery, right? And it was almost sure that she'll have to go through that. But in a span of 8 months, she worked with us and successfully reduced about 20 kgs of weight at an age of 68 or 69, almost 70. Yeah. And she was able to avoid that surgery, right? And I think that's a drastic achievement. I think that's at that age, if you can avoid surgeries, there's nothing better than that, right? So that's one example. Another example that I can recall is one of these gentlemen, Delhi based. He had been he had been into marathons and very active athlete in his prime, but now being a 70-year-old, he now wanted to get back into the game and start running half marathons at least, and starting with 5 kilometer, 10 kilometers, and 21 kilometers, right? It was just something he was passionate about because he wanted to do it just like his days of the prime, right? So he worked with us for about 6 months. He got his fitness. Obviously, there was a lot of support on the fitness side as well by their fitness coach. But by working with us, focusing on the nutrition, he was able to, shed about, I think, 15 to 18 actually 22 kgs of body weight, right? Fix a lot of micronutrient deficiencies, build more muscle, and I think recently he ran a 21K. Uh, Before the pandemic, yeah, before the pandemic, he just ran a 21-kilometer half marathon, right? So I think these are the kind of drastic transformation stories that when you really talk about, I think puts into perspective that anything is possible at any age, right? So I'd love to hear from you some of the very drastic transformations of elderly people that you have enabled yourself being a health coach in the last 8-9 years, and what went on behind enabling that. I would love to hear that.
Right. Uh, See, first thing, when I'm addressing population above 50 or 60 years, many a times, see, it's difficult to start, but I'm telling you, start simple. Uh, it can be, and set a goal. As in, you do not have to set a goal that, oh, I'm going to lose 5 kg. That's not the goal. Your goal is, why are you improving your health? What is that? Maybe you want to play with your grandkids, maybe you want to see your next generation, maybe you want to run a marathon. At this age you want to run a marathon, or maybe fourth, you want to take care of yourself at old age. You want to prevent the fractures, all you want to be there for your spouse all through your life, or her life or his life. So set a goal which is emotional, because I'll tell you, when you're setting a goal which is very factorial, you may be able to reach it, you may not be able to reach it. But when you're setting a goal that is very close to you, you will be able to set down smaller goals, like I walk a day, or I'll walk this much a day, I'll go to the gym, or this is the diet that I can follow, this is what I'll start with. So this is the small framework I wanted to give before I set for the examples. So there are a couple of examples that I can give you wherein I worked with people above 50 and 60 years. I'll tell you, age is always in the mind. You can start at any time. I'll tell you why this is the best age to start. You're free of all responsibilities. Your children have gone, your children are married, they have got their own life. You're pretty much stress free. You can have your own schedule. Your spouse is there to serve you before she was distracted by her kids. So now everything is set. You are there, you are there to look after each other. Even if you are single, you have the time to take care of yourself at this stage. So best time to start, I would say. Okay, now the certain examples that I would like to trace back, and I think I would start personally from my home. That is my father-in-law, who is about 70 years. Actually, he still runs, and he's taken up a physical activity, just cycling. This actually happened in the COVID time, wherein his aim is now to get, at least two pack abs, which is, I know, for a 70-year-old, it is a little, in our culture, if you hear it, it is a little thing. But his aim seems very good, and he's working towards it day after day. And I think he's very proactive. He takes care of his food. He does not he knows what he has to eat at what time. He ensures that he has enough amount of fiber in his diet through fruits and vegetables. He does not has a mixed schedule for anything. A lot of determination around that. I think we all have that kind of inspiration from him. He also had a very tough life, okay, wherein he had a lot of responsibilities, but now he knows he has that time. And with my mom-in-law not being around, but still he definitely makes it a point that he wants to keep himself active, fit. He swims as well, at least 2 times a week. He ensures that whatever he's doing is increasing the momentum and frequency so that he can push himself to that large extent. But in this, food also plays a very, very important factor. So maintaining
Absolutely.
your energy levels, okay, getting that protein and maintaining your muscle mass is very, very important. And by the way, he also lifts weights. Okay, so that is the entire thing perspective from my home. So age is not a factor. You can start and set small goals for yourself and reach to a certain extent. Also, I would like to take an example of a client whom I had who was having a high diabetes, okay, and high HbA1c. He has never exercised in his life, to be honest. He's never exercised in his life. He joined me on a program, and we started slow and steady. Okay, he never liked exercising, so just 20 minutes of a walk. Go do your music, have a nice walk and come back. We started off with that. And today we are into 1 hour of power walk, once in the morning and once in the evening. Also, we did follow a good plate method wherein we have enough amount of proteins and fiber in the ratio of 1:1, and whatever he was a prominent rice eater.
Hmm.
So we tried to shift him to millets. It was a challenge, but he loved millets. We tried giving him different recipes with relation to millets so that he enjoys the South Indian cuisine. At the same time, he is not missing, because taste is very important. We're all born
Absolutely.
with, especially when you look at our parents, but then is a very important factor. So we tried maintaining the taste. We tried including all the fruits that he likes in the schedule. We told him how much he's supposed to have at what time, and at the same time we included nuts and oilseeds, very important. And we did ask him to do a couple of blood tests so that we can correct his micronutrient deficiencies. And trust me, from an HbA1c of 10, he has come to an HbA1c of 6.4. Okay, that took him 6 months,
Hmm.
but today he is happy, and trust me, he has definitely got cuts on his body after doing so much of physical activity. By the way, he does weight training. That means he's got a little bit of bands and weights at home, wherein he does that too, at least 3 times a week. So it's not necessary to go out, go get a gym enrollment. You can do it at home. Even in the required time that you have, you can do a couple of exercises, even being at your home. Since obviously it's the COVID period, there's a lot of
Yeah.
uh, you know uh, thing around. And last example I would like to give you of a triathlon athlete who had come to me at the age of 62, and he wanted to run the triathlon. Okay,
Wow.
it was challenging. He was on a typical Indian diet. Okay,
Lot of
and
carbs, lot of rice, lot of chapatis.
it was difficult, but I loved the spirit. And trust me, he came 41 or 42 on the ranks, but he did it. He did it with all the support. Yes, we did supplement him as well, but it took us 7 months to reach there. But he did it, and now he's aiming for more. So everywhere
Did
there's
he
a
actually
triathlon, he
complete the
would
triathlon?
absolutely. He completed it. He was going to give up in swimming, but he pushed himself even more, and he did it. So he's one of what do you say, my inspiration, that never give up and work on whatever you have. But obviously, whenever you're doing something intense like this, please take the help of a nutritionist who can fuel you. So
Hmm.
this person was not on a high fiber, high protein. He needs carbs because he needs to finish that he needs
Yeah,
instant energy when you're doing three different activities.
correct.
So cycling, swimming, running, all of them put together, so it is difficult. And even on the go, you need that energy, and what to eat and what supplements to have. So please go and visit. What I'm trying to tell you is, age is in the mind. Do not it's never late to start. Okay. And yes, it's a start that stops you. So start with simple things, and you will go a very long way.
So, Shali, we've talked about the physical health aspect of it, right? But what I feel is that a very, very prominent part of the health challenges that you face after 60, I think it's the mental health aspect of it, right? People having depression, loneliness, I think in general not feeling like they're really, living their best life, right? I think that's a much bigger challenge than all of the other challenges that you face, right? And it's quite understandable as well, because you feel that your prime of your life is behind you, professionally, and how you used to contribute, how occupied you used to be, how productive you used to be. Your kids are not around you, right? You just feel that feeling of loneliness, even if you're living with your spouse, it's just the two of you. Very few cases you might end up having strong communities who you engage with, people of the similar age groups, right? But I think more often than not, this is a very common problem where loneliness, mental health, depression, I think this is This is one of the bigger challenges, right? So I'd love to talk about how the pursuit of better physical health, right? Having better nutrition, getting rid of excess body weight, keeping your micronutrients right, ensuring osteoarthritis ko we are fighting by having the right treatment, having the right lifestyle, etc. Right? Why pursuing all of these things might actually improve your quality of life in terms of how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your life, whether or not you feel depressed, whether or not you feel lonely. I personally feel that it can have a drastic impact, right? Even if your kids won't come back to stay with you and you suddenly don't have a social life, but having these habits, having a better physical health would ensure that there can be more positivity up here. That's my strong belief. So would love to hear your thoughts about that.
Right. Actually, you're absolutely right. When it comes to, so I've been telling right from the beginning that your body and mind are very closely connected. The age after 50 and 60, things change. It's a different stage of your life wherein people move away, especially the most important thing which you have been doing all your life, earning for your kids, their education, everything is over. They're pretty much settled. They're moved far away, or so when you don't have a goal, what happens is that point of time, mentally you start feeling, no, what should I live for? Okay, and at that point of time is the time that you can live for yourself. It has been so many years that you've not lived for yourself. So I think this is the right time to encash on your health, so that future dependence on anybody decreases and you can still enjoy the prime years of your life. I would say post 50 still are prime years of your life. You still have, with the life expectancy increasing, you still have about 30-40 years to still live.
True.
Okay, so let's not take it in that different aspect. And obviously, in our culture, we move into a lot of spirituality. Yes, all that can continue in the background, but to take care of your physical health is in your hands, because like I said, physical and mental are both connected. Okay, so let's go on to the physical health right now. Physical health, like I said, your physical activity, your the way you eat food, what are you including in your food on a day to day basis, all of these affects hormones in your brain. Brain is also an organ, but at least in culturally we never view it as an organ. When we get diabetes, we very proudly say to everybody that, oh, we have diabetes. Not proud, but we're comfortable. Sorry to use that word, but we're very comfortable to tell people we have diabetes. But when it comes to your brain, we don't take care of our brain. Okay, so all these things, you're getting into movement, doing any physical activity, and what food you eat produces good hormones in your body, like your endorphins, which are your happy hormones, like serotonin, dopamine, oxytocin, all of these hormones. Similarly, when they're higher in your brain, you are encouraged to do more. I feel good. Do you know the feel good, that I feel good to get up today? I feel good that I want to do something new. I feel good about my body. I feel good I've lost weight. All of these feel good is happening in your brain. And why do you feel good? Because the happy hormones are always
Yeah.
high. Let's not demote physical activity and what we eat to, and correcting our micronutrient deficiencies. And even I would say, please be open to supplementation, because as you age, absorption decreases. So if you're having through food, yes, food should be your first line of treatment. But the second line is always, if supplements are required, please go ahead. Supplement does not come under drugs, it comes under food, and it helps in better absorption because it's a more pure form. Okay, so it helps in better absorption, and hence it will make you feel good overall. So your aim after the age of 50 and 60 is to take care of yourself, which you've not been doing for a long time. So all the basic idea of loneliness kind of diminishes because I have a routine, I'm doing something for
Yeah.
myself. Sometimes when you get into this physical activities, you form your own circle. Okay,
True.
you're going for walking, you form friends there. Maybe you're going to the gym, you form friends there. Maybe you're doing some physical activity on your own. You form, and you're going to any classes, you form friends there. So it kind of gets, or maybe in an activity which is organized in your building or your campus area, you form friends there. So these kind of things also help. And also, though I'm a nutritionist, I want to explain the social aspect. Please, to all the people, please maintain a social life also. Okay, and I think this is the time you can spend more time with your spouse, going out to movies, watching something on your own, doing activity at home, like maybe washing the dishes, or helping around. All of these keep you busy all through the day. And when you're busy, what happens? Okay, your entire system is working, your blood is active, there's entire blood flowing through your system, and more that happens, the more the toxins are removed out of the body. And all the age old diseases that come as you age is just because the blood flow in your system is not proper. So
True.
set a schedule for the day, okay, and do as per your schedule. It will definitely give positive results.
Absolutely makes sense, right? Uh, I think, yeah, very beautifully explained the correlation between your mental health and your physical health, and why it's all the more important for somebody who's like a 60, 70-year-old, right? Because for us, I think even for a 25, 30-year-old, when we are actually going through some stress or things are challenging, there's certain mental health or stress related issues, it's easier for us to actually, because we have a social circle, we can keep ourselves occupied, we can just plan an improv to go a trip and whatnot, right? But all of those, I think it's a much tougher problem for somebody who's 65, 70. And literally the only way to ensure that uh, things are smooth when it comes to your mental health is to have a routine, to have a social life, and most importantly to have a healthy body, right? Because very cliched saying, but a healthy mind lies in a healthy body. I think that becomes all the more important for a elderly person to really incorporate in their life.
Yeah, I would like to add a point here for all the people who have not traveled for so long because of their busy schedule. I think that can be a very very good goal for a person, that I need to remain healthy because I want to travel the world. I
Yeah,
want to see that I've not seen for so many years because I had responsibility. I think that can be an amazing goal for a person, and can work towards it, and you see how you will be an inspiration for the youngsters.
agree, completely agree. I think I'll take this up personally for my parents. I'll give them a goal that I guess you guys should do a McLeodganj trek or some kind of a small trek that you guys can target next year. Obviously, I think this year would again be probably some kind of restriction, and they'll have their own. Uh, they won't want to travel probably, but I guess I'll take this goal for my parents and let you know how that pans out.
Fathers are still tricks at this age. So
Interesting, very inspiring.
yeah.
Cool. So, Vaishali, talking about the one of the biggest killers that one of the biggest challenges that both countries like the US and the India are facing, right? Diabetes. I think it's one of the top five causes of deaths, right? In India itself, I think there's 70 million people who are diabetic, 70 million who are pre-diabetic, right? So about total 140 million, and obviously I think we are very well aware how diabetes affects your quality of life and what it can really lead to if it goes out of hand, right? uh, Beyond the age of 60, I think it's almost universal to have some or the other chronic condition, right up there being diabetes followed by hypertension, and I think obviously heart health and the possibility of heart attack, stroke, and all of that being very very high. And I think this is also part of the top three uh, challenges that you have, right? So talking specifically about diabetes, as a 60-year-old person, and personally this is what I have seen with most of my relatives who are 60 plus, that the mindset seems to be that I won't have a sugar, the chini, right? Or just like explicit sugar nahi khayenge, and beyond that I'll just continue to take my medication, and that's pretty much it. Any advice outside of that is really ignored, right? So I'd love for you to explain in a bit more detail, that is diabetes or controlling your blood sugar, is it limited to only eliminating refined sugar from your diet and just following your medication? Is it as simple as that, right? And b, what what are the ways wherein you can still screw up your health, still screw up your diabetes, even in scenarios jahan pe your refined sugar you've actually eliminated from your diet, yet what are the other ways by which you might be going wrong, right? So I think that's a very very common misnomer that okay चीनी कम कर दो done है diabetes and medication खाते रहो, but I don't think that's how it works, right? So would love to talk more about that.
Yes, very good question. I think it's very common to say कि मुझे blood sugar कैसे आया, मैंने तो चीनी कब का बंद कर दिया. So if sugar had to correlate, so what we correlate high blood sugar levels in our blood to sugar which is present outside our body. But what is that sugar in your blood? It is the breakdown product of everything that I'm eating.
Yeah.
It is just a breakdown. So suppose if I'm eating carbohydrates, protein, fats, all of them break down to something called as sugar. But the rate at which they break down is very different. So सिर्फ चीनी बंद करने से sugar level कम नहीं होगा. Yes, obviously it's good कि आपने चीनी बंद किया because that is one ingredient that has no nutritional property. That's what I've been saying right from the beginning, that sugar is one ingredient which has zero nutrition. Fat also has the nutrition, but
Yeah.
sugar has no. So even if you stop it, it's good, but that's not going to get your diabetes in check. Now, why are we the diabetic capital? Because because if you go and see ancient history, all of us were farmers. Okay, in the south you had rice, in north you had wheat. Okay, we did have an array of vegetables, but if you see our plates, which is the largest amount of item that we have on our plate, it's either roti, chapati, or rice.
Yeah, 70%, I guess.
Are always there, but they're accompaniments, small quantities. Dal is there, small quantity. The curd is there, small quantity. All of them. But your problem now in your body is pancreas is not secreting insulin. That is diabetes. Okay, or your body is covered, or your organs are covered with fat, and even if insulin is high in your body, it's not able to enter your cell because it's covered with fat. Okay. So these are the two reasons why you have diabetes. Either insulin is less, or your body cells or your organs are covered with fat. Okay. So the reason the sugar level is high in your diet is because you need to reduce on carbohydrates in the diet. Carbohydrates are anything to do with chapati, your rice. Okay. Bring that quantity down and increase the accompaniments. That's as simple as it. Accompanies meaning your vegetable, your curd, your dal. Increase that and decrease the quantity of your carbohydrates. Change the ratio. Now people will say, "Oh, I've been eating this for years, nothing happened." But what it was 20 years before, is your lifestyle the same today?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. We have changed. Our environments have changed. Our soil has changed. Our air has changed. Everybody has changed. Our stress levels have changed. So why not our plate? Our plate should also change depending upon our needs for the hour, right? So if your plate has more of carbohydrate like chapati or your rice, and you feel full with it, because again a mental tendency, वो मेरा पेट नहीं भरेगा, भर जाता है. It is just try it once with an open mind. Okay, so instead of having one katori dal, have 2 katoris dal. Instead of having 1 cup of sabzi, have 1 katori of sabzi. I think many people don't even have 1 katori of sabzi, only half a katori. So 1 katori of sabzi along with a cup of salad. So jitna raw or cooked का 50-50% ratio हो जाएगा. That will be really good for your body, because raw में जो nutrients है आपको cook में नहीं मिलेगा, जो cook में है आपको raw में नहीं मिलेगा, right? And obviously curd also. Curd is a very important probiotic which helps in better absorption in your system. Okay, and people who are allergic to curd, milk, etc. Okay, I'll tell you this something interesting. You can even make almond curd and coconut curd at home, which is very good. Okay, and many of the recipes are available online, and it's equally tasty. So mix in a few spices and make it very tasty. And if you're allergic to milk, then please try almond milk, because that will also add in that extra nutrition in terms of protein and as well. So I hope, Akshad, I answered your question, that sugar and sugar in the body does not correlate exactly with each other. But what your body can't do is digest a lot of carbs. Okay, and that is the issue. but it is reversible. I'm telling you on screen, it is reversible. Okay, and it's just a lifestyle. The moment you get your carbs down, because excess of carbs convert into fat. So the one issue that I said, ki, your organs are covered with fat. How do I remove that?
Hmm.
That fat can only be removed if I reduce my carbohydrates in the diet. Okay. Consequently, to meet our satiety levels, we're increasing the protein and fiber also. Okay?
Correct, correct. Got it, got it. I think so. Very simple recipe for a diabetic 60-year-old to follow, right? Just reduce your body fat, and how to do that is by increasing your protein and fiber, right? And at the cost of obviously your carbs, right? If you are having refined carbs and sugar, which obviously you shouldn't be having, and if you're having that too much, I think allowance thoda bahut to hota hi hai. 1 or 2 teaspoon sugar. I'm not sure how much is it for a 60-year-old person who doesn't have diabetes. They're still allowed to have 1 teaspoon of sugar per day, right? Consumption? No.
Yes, absolutely, you can. If you're not a diabetic, you can definitely have sugar. And but my advice to everyone, whether you're diabetic, whether you're not diabetic, see, 1 teaspoon of sugar per day. Okay, even if I'm having one tea or one cup of coffee, if I multiply that into 30 days in a month, okay, I end up getting 30 teaspoons, and that actually and if I'm not doing any kind of physical activity, or if I'm a sedentary worker, that amounts to 3 grams of fat per month. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is sugar does not actually give you yes, it doesn't definitely add taste to that coffee or the tea that you're having, but the more you move away from going sugar free, I'll tell you, it just takes 2 weeks for you to get accustomed to the taste and flavor, okay, of having a black tea or a black coffee. You can add milk, not a problem, but it will be very very beneficial
Hmm.
for you, because it doesn't stop with 1 teaspoon. So when you go
Got
out,
it.
it becomes two, it becomes three sometimes. So that's not. So the more you start drinking sugarless, you'll be able to opt for sugarless outside also.
Yeah, true, true. Right. So, Vaishali, just like diabetes, I think the second killer is heart, right? Heart diseases, right? Stroke, heart attacks, and in general, I think heart health is a problem, right? Uh, I think we should talk in a lot of detail about that. Right from how does your heart health degrade over your 40s, 50s, or even 30s, right? What are the stuff that you do that it starts degrading, right? If it continues to degrade, what are the threats that you face beyond 60, apart from the well-known, obviously, I think heart attack, millions of people who die every year because of heart attacks, right? So what are the challenges that a poor heart health can lead to, and essentially what are the changes that I can today make right away to fix my heart health, even before being told by the doctor, in which case it might uh, you might have already screwed it up. And I think at some point you would have to go to the heart doctor and get some advice. But even before that, if you're 60, look watching this podcast of ours, just simple why what changes you should do so that wo heart wale challenges should not come in. We would love to talk about all of these three aspects.
Okay. Now, heart related disease can come because of several reasons. Okay, so we need to understand what is the root cause first. If you have diabetes, if you're a chronic diabetic having diabetes for a very long period of time, it can surmount into a heart disease, because sugar high in your system, meaning it starts affecting all your organs, and it can be any organ. So now in this example, it's heart. Okay, and like I said, the aftermath of high blood sugar is high fat. That is the reason. So high fat starts depositing in all your nerves and veins and all of that, and it's not allowing the blood to flow, because it forms a big bulge. Okay, it blocks the heart flow. So if suppose this much is there for the blood to flow through, this much of space, now the blood has only this much of space. So the pressure increases in that particular area for the blood to flush. So it's a high blood pressure. Okay, and obviously cardiac condition, wherein you have to do an angiography to see how many blocks you have. And what is block? Block is nothing other than a blob of fat over there. Okay, so that can be a aftermath of, or a repercussion of diabetes for a very long period of time. Second is, people have a tendency of high blood pressure. Now, what is this? And high, cholesterol level. This can be genetic, and this can be environmental also. Genetic meaning my mother had or my father had, and so I got it. Okay. And it's not necessary always I should get it, but because I have also been leading a stressful life, not maintaining my health and all of that. So environment is nothing but your physical activity, your food, and your mind, all of them put together. All the three I was not maintaining, so I ended up having a high blood pressure or a high cholesterol.
So,
Both are
sorry,
hard to.
Vaishali, just to clarify, if I cannot say that I had to get heart disease because it is in my genes, right? It's just that my risk of getting heart disease is higher because it's in my genetics, but it's still in my hands to not get it or to get it, and that completely depends on my lifestyle. So that risk is higher, but it's still in my hands. That's how I understand it. That's how it is, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So we can go against our genetics also. Absolutely. When we're maintaining a good lifestyle, we can definitely go against our genetics. And stress. All the patients who have only come to me with hypertension, that is high blood pressure as a condition, uh, the only factor is stress. And I'm not denying that. The only factor is stress. So when I'm saying that nutrition and physical activity is important in case of heart health or any kind of health, stress should also be a very, very important factor. The mind body health, all these three factors should be covered. Now, I'll give you certain a few tips which can actually take care of your heart disease as well. First is obviously, like I told you, follow the plate method of eating. In the plate method, what do you have? 50% of your plate is covered with vegetables. And in these vegetables, 50% should be raw, 50% should be cooked. Also, one third of your plate is filled with all your cereals. That is your chapati or your millet or your rice, and the next one third is your protein portion, which can be your dals, lentils, pulses, chicken, fish, eggs. Okay. So this plate method, if you follow for the main meals, I am 110% sure you will end up losing fat. But then we have other meals like breakfast and your mid meals, in between your main meals, what do you have? So, in your breakfast, always have protein. Why? I'll tell you the reason. When you wake up in the morning, you're alert, right? All the hormones that keep you alert, and very interestingly, stress hormone is highest in the morning. Okay, so when you're alert in the morning and your stress hormones are high, they automatically break down your muscle to produce more sugar. And what is a typical Indian diet? Poha, upma, paratha, this is a typical breakfast. All of these are cereals.
Yeah.
All of this produce a lot of carbohydrates. Okay, so let's reverse that. And maybe जो हम लोग रात को खाते हैं like मूंग का डोसा, बेसन का डोसा, let's shift that to the morning. Okay, and anything made out of pulses is something you can have. You can have egg whites in the morning, and you can have mix in a lot of vegetables, tomatoes, carrot, capsicum, etc. So a lot of fiber, a lot of protein. Okay, in your mid meals, obviously, two only things that you can have are your fruits and your nuts. Okay, fruit, small portions along with nuts and seeds is something that you can have in your mid meal. And if you follow this kind of strategy all through the day in terms of eating, will definitely help in maintaining your lifestyle. Now, when it comes to hypertension, sodium is a very important factor. Why? Sodium comes from salt,
Mm.
right? So, any food that contains extra salt should be avoided in the diet. Now, there was a time when they said no, green leafy vegetables have more salt, milk and milk products have more salt. Yes, they do have, but having them in small quantities is not going to cause any harm. Instead, what extra salt you had all through the day, that can be minimized in cooking. Don't add salt to your salads. Don't add that extra oil to your salads. Keep your salads natural. Add in
Yeah.
lemon, add in the pepper, add in, maybe if you want, you can add a little bit of rock salt, add your seeds to it and make it nutritious. Okay, so externally added salt can take care of a lot of your blood pressure. Okay, and all of these will add that extra fiber. Fiber will bind to the fat and remove it from the body. So all that, the thing of getting your blood vessels cleared, that will happen through the excess of fiber. And last but not the least, water. Water is very, very essential. It carries all the nutrients. आप जो भी
Hmm.
दिन में खा रहे हो, it carries all the nutrients. So water, at least 3 to 4 liters. Best idea, fill 3 bottles of water in the morning itself and keep. You know by the end of the day, I have to finish this much of water. This way, you'll never forget to have water.
Correct, correct. Especially it's easy to forget during winters, right? Has started happening with me. That's the exact strategy that I use, right? So just putting 3 bottles and ensuring that I finish it at the end of the day, very useful.
Absolutely.
So yeah, basically, even for, if you are, if there's a chance that you might have heart disease or you already do have heart disease, right? It's again a very, very simplified approach wherein you follow the plate method, as you said. I think if I caught it right, it is basically 25, 25, 25, 25, right? 25% raw veggies, 25% cooked veggies, 25, 30% is your cereals, white, rice and roti, etc. And 25, 30% has to be your pulses and protein, right? So following this, if you have heart disease or there's a risk of having heart disease, you'll be sorted. That's
Right.
how I.
Extra point to add, some people may not feel satiated with this quantity. In case you're not feeling satiated, how will you repeat the serving? Not with the cereal. We immediately go and fetch extra paratha,
Mm,
extra chapati.
yeah.
No. You will start with having extra veggies first, okay? Then your dal or your, your protein source, your pulses, etc. And then last you'll go to a roti if you're
Mm-hmm.
still hungry. And very important, guys, eat slowly. Very important to eat very, very slowly. Chew your food because maximum amount of digestion takes place in your mouth. So one meal should last for 20 minutes. This is really a far-fetched approach. Even I have not been able to reach it. But 15 minutes is at least that we can try to have one meal.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. All right, Vaishali. So at the beginning, we talked about, in fact, you mentioned that one of the key stakeholders to bring this change into the lives of our 60 plus population would be the kids, the current millennials, or even the Gen Y and Gen Z, right? Who'll have parents who are aging, who are elderly, right? Which is an interesting point of view that you didn't say that it has to be the government, has to be the doctors, etc., right? So, and I completely agree with that because I've not just done it myself but seen a lot of my friends proactively doing it. I think it's a trend. A lot of us, because we are not we care a lot about our parents but we're not living with them, I think we are finding innovative solutions to push them towards better health and remotely take care of them, right? So even at Nutripal we see a lot of our members within their first month enrolling their both their parents, right? That's a very common trend, right? But so just to elaborate a bit more on how exactly, what is the role that kids have to play in bringing about this change, right? uh, could be around how to it's so if I had to put it in a very simple way, there are two kinds of parents. One is parents who listen to you, and once you tell them to do something, I think they do it consistently. In fact, they'll even listen to the doctors once they tell them ki heart health ke liye ye karo, and they'll just do it obsessively. That's great. But I think there's another category of parents who are slightly tougher to deal with, right? Explaining them, investing that kind of time to explain ki yaar, this is this is how things should be, right? Or even getting that consistency, because they might have their own lifestyle कि मुझे ये नहीं करना, योगा नहीं करना, मुझे 10 के steps नहीं करने, क्यों करना है, सब मोह माया है, right? So I think that second category of parents is very, very common. थोड़ा सा they have some resistance really grabbing onto these concepts. Yeah, if you say go on a diet, right, enroll under a health coach, there'll be a lot of resistance, right? So why spend money on this? I'll just reduce my chapatis. Simple as that, right? But it's not that simple, right? So if if you were, let's say, addressing a gathering of 1,000 millennial kids who are not living with their parents and they want to do something about it, what is the advice that you will give to these kids to ensure that this change happens?
It's a wonderful question. Why? Because I think it's the best time for us to take onus and give something back to that generation who has given so much to us. Rather have they done so many sacrifices to get us here. Our responsibility at this stage, or obviously a more younger generation at this stage, is uh, to first get the change in us. Like Akshat, you said that you brought the change in you. Your parents were looking at you. You got that first change of exercise, eating correct. Having a good mental, frame of mind. Everything of all the three put together. So first advice to all this generation is first you change yourself. Second very important thing is, since now most of us are moving away from homes, you're staying far, most of us are not there with our parents. It's very important to nudge them, take care of them as much as you can when you're staying far. And like you said, there are one category of people who take things in the stride, and they're able to do things easily. But we be talking about the second category of people who are a little resistant. They are like, I have led my life the way I want to, and I have got certain belief systems, and I will go by it. This is the modern way of living and doesn't suit me. But uh, this they do not get to they do not understand that that way of living that they were living 20 years back is not going to work today. That is why they are predisposed to diseases, or they're already having diseases and all kinds of aches and pains in their body. Now, you being a child, it can be a little difficult to convince your parents and get them into that frame of mind. But there are some people who can definitely do that. For example, doctors. Like if suppose your parent is visiting a doctor, the doctor can impose that you need to follow a healthy diet, you need to follow a healthy physical activity, and that's when you're going to get fine. Okay. Or maybe a very close family member who can actually tell the person that yes, this is definitely going to help you. Any kind of health professional can definitely get the ball rolling. Okay. And you can also tap into certain examples of people around them, like their close friends who have already started doing, and get them to convince your parents to do stuff. But like I said, start small. Do not start something really extravagant with them, because once they're not able to accomplish that, it'll demotivate them. Okay, so small goal setting is very essential. Also, nowadays that we have is health coaches, lifestyle coaches like me, and there's so many of them elsewhere who help give that assistance, because we are people who have been educated in that field, and we are there to help people. That is our aim, that is our goal in life, to get people much more healthier. So bringing such kind of people into your parents lives will definitely help make that change positively. Very important, what happens is we are able to establish that close connection with the parents. Okay, we are able to become their friends, they're able to confide in us, because our very profession is not to judge. Our very profession is to make those small changes, wherein we can see even 10% achievement, 20% achievement, and we know it is the once we started on the road to success is pretty much closer for us. So I would suggest this generation to boost their parents, to be that extra helping hand. Even if you're not able to do it physically, maybe entrust it on somebody else who can do it much better. But it is it's now on your shoulders to get that ball rolling, to make them understand that my health is very essential.
Absolutely agree with that, right? I think especially the point around health coaches, I've personally from within my team heard of a lot of members, elderly members, who have almost started treating the coaches like their daughters, right? And they've become so close that they just don't want to like discontinue the program and whatever, right? So I think it goes way beyond, let's say, being on a program or doing yoga or dieting, right? If you have that companion, that person who's holding you accountable, you have somebody who is taking care of you.
Absolutely.
I think that drives the consistency, because that level of follow up, let's say, your kids might not be able to do.
Right. They look forward to it. Like, I think it's the generation that look forward to it, and it's such a positive motivator for us also. Because they are one set of people who I think they prioritize, once they get into the belief and they can see the results, I think that will be the top priority on the list. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. In fact, I think this episode I'll definitely forward to pretty much all my friends and literally force them to do something about their parents' health and do something drastic, right? And just a simple
And
nudge might not work. Enroll them in some program. Just make them sit down and see a documentary which talks about diet or lifestyle, right? So something drastic. I'll definitely force all my friends to do it for sure. Uh, at a macro level, Vaishali, I think micro level we've talked what kids should do, what the parents should do, how we should approach physical health, nutrition, uh, and even the stress management and mental health side of things. But at a macro level, what is the role that the various stakeholders, say the government, the corporates, uh, you know uh, the government, corporates, insurance companies, doctors, right? These macro stakeholders, what is the role that they need to play, and what are the 2 3 changes that need to be brought about at a macro level that will help this segment live drastically better?
Akshad, I think I will pose the question back to you, because you do run such a successful business. So uh, how do you view this question that you asked me? How are your contributing?
uh, I think there's I think at a macro level, see, I don't believe in a lot of legislation being able to drive a lot of change. I think it is important, but it's not the silver bullet, right? Legislation did not make the uh, internet revolution happen. Legislation won't make 100 million Indians fit. It will be the private companies, it will be the investment that goes into health tech, healthcare services, that actually brings about the change. It's never legislation, right? So my personal belief is that uh, identifying elderly care as a business opportunity would be important, and I feel it would be a significant business opportunity, because if you look at the next 10 20 years, right? uh, Before we had the kids who were there, right? They they were not as well off. Like 20 years back, the people who were in their 30s and 40s, right? They were not there health aware, right? They were not there, let's say, well off. They were not there tech savvy, right? Even the parents were obviously not tech savvy. Nobody had mobile phones. Now, and talking about the next 10 years, uh, 2 3 things are happening. Millennials are very very, so one, they are living away, right? This is a, like, it's an 80 90% millennials are living away from the parents. Number two, they are very very health aware for themselves, so they know that their parents also need some kind of help, and their health is obviously degrading beyond 60, right? Three, thankfully, over the last 10 years, parents have started becoming tech savvy, and I think it'll only increase. I'm sure you'd find your father or father-in-law or mom, right, being engaged in WhatsApp, Facebook, and most of social media, all day. So there is some level of tech adoption as well, right? uh, I think, and obviously, as this population further ages, elderly care would become a very very important, not just health coaching, but even beyond the age of 75 80, when there are certain other constraints, physical constraints that come in, right? I think elderly care would be a very very significant opportunity over the next 10 15 years, right? There'll be a lot of expenditure that will go on from the millennials behind helping their parents lead better lives. And there'll be a lot of businesses that, if they can crack the right business models, right solutions to seamlessly connect the the curative side of things, doctors, and also caregiving, right? Care providers for this elderly population. I think it'll be a significant opportunity if you can make this business work at scale, reach the right audience, reach masses profitably, right? That's ultimately the goal of a business, I think. So identifying that, the fact that this is a big opportunity, and then making that happen would be the first thing that the ecosystem can do and should do to make this change happen, right? Second, I feel, I think it might be it should be happening in pockets already. I'm not very well aware of it, but the entire corporate wellness side of things in the Indian ecosystem, I think it's set for an overhaul, right? In the current construct, I see corporate wellness being run in a very basic way, wherein the focus on the end engagement and health impact is very very less. It's mostly, it's a company, let's say a big company of 10,000 employees. There's some corporate wellness program which is mentioned in some benefits. Okay, you have health insurance as well, but corporate wellness is more about not insurance, but just ongoing services to help you stay fit, help your population, help your employees stay fit, right? I think those businesses or those offerings are not very efficient right now. So next 10 years, may what I see happening is that the quality of these corporate wellness solution providers would drastically increase with more focus on actual impact, whether the employees are actually improving their health, and it's not just something that is written in your benefits document, right? Now when that happens, I'm very confident that a lot of these solution providers would extend benefits to the parents as well. So if I'm an employee working in some big company who offers these services, right, I'm very sure that it would make a lot of sense for these offerings to include my parents as well, right, in these benefits, right? And I think this would be another macro trend that will significantly be beneficial for the 60 plus population, because obviously they'll be out of the workforce. They are out of the workforce beyond 60, but it's their kids who are who are seeing those, who are getting access to those benefits, so that it can be extended to the parents as well. I think this would be the second macro trend. Third one, I wish it happens, but I am not sure how it would happen. So especially at a micro level, what I feel is that the doctor interaction right now is very basic in terms of when I see doctor prescriptions in my family members, while the doctor sometimes verbally says do this change in terms of lifestyle, stop having sugar, or reduce your calorie intake, or start doing physical activity, right? It's just something that they say, and the next time you use it 2 months after that is just something they ask, right? What happens within that time, right? Are you even writing it in the prescription for the end consumer to take it so seriously that it's as important as the medicine that is prescribed, right? uh, are you having an ecosystem wherein pretty much every doctor is, I don't know, through legislation or through innovative business models, has the incentive to be connected to a wellness solution provider? So if I'm a doctor, I know somebody has a very high blood sugar, right? And I know this is a person, because I'm the family doctor, who won't do it themselves and who doesn't have the knowledge to make those changes themselves. I should compulsorily connect him to a dietitian or a health coach, right? Or you get the point, right? Broadly, just that uh, right now the nudging towards lifestyle change from doctors is happening in a very soft manner. If it can be slightly more hard coded, or there can be more structure around it, I think द वे आई सी इट इज डॉक्टर से ज्यादा किसी की बात सीरियसली नहीं लेते, राइट? सो अगर डॉक्टर ने कुछ ऐसे फोर्स कर दिया तुम्हें, देन डेफिनेटली दिस 60 प्लस पॉपुलेशन वुड बी लाइक ये तो करना ही है, right? So I think from the doctor ecosystem side, if somebody can design solutions which ensures that pretty much all doctors have some kind of a tie-up with wellness solution providers, with the right incentives for both the solution provider and the doctor in terms of financial incentive and overall, that's how this would work. Just to sum it up, so three things, right? In my view, one, there should be a lot of elderly care solution providers that come up, right? Because I think it'll be a decent sized business opportunity. Second thing, on the corporate wellness side, including parents, and obviously first making corporate wellness effective for the current set of people, the current workforce. And third is obviously innovative solution emerging that ensures that the doctor, there's an interface between the doctor and the end consumer, which ensures care on an ongoing basis, regular follow-ups which a doctor cannot possibly do, right? So these three things, if these happen, I think our 60 plus population over the next 10-20 years would be 5 times healthier than they are right now. That's how I see it.
Right. Akshad, I totally agree with what you said. I like the last point wherein you said that, we doctor, because of the time constraint that he has, he cannot constantly monitor a patient who comes to him, or do a follow up, seeing whether everything is followed. I think that's where a nutritionist, a life coach, comes into the picture, because we are more connected to the patient, the person who's coming to us. We know everything about the life history, the food, what he's doing all through the day, he or she. So that connection is maintained, and we are connected to the doctor. So we kind of understand, and it becomes a complete ecosystem. And I think, yes, that is the near future that's going to happen. And life coaches are next big thing that people are going to have as a part of their day-to-day lifestyle. Also, yes, elderly care is something which I think India is a little bit behind compared to places like US, wherein there is a lot of elderly care facilities that they're
Absolutely.
providing, because they're because obviously the population of elders are much higher there, but not that we do not have that kind of a population here. But I think it's just that we need the government to work on more strategies for taking care of them as well, because even we are moving into a generation where the younger population is not the same that it was years before. So I think we need to have some facilities provided by the government as well.
Absolutely. In terms of trend as well, right? Right now, there's 100 million elderly people, 60 plus, at a 3-4% annual growth rate. What is projected is that in the next 25, 30 years, this would be almost 300 million. So 30 CR elderly population as opposed to 10 CR right now, right? So definitely, this would be a pretty big opportunity, and the market would definitely evolve towards having a lot of elderly care solutions. I'm very confident about that. How fast that happens depends on a lot of these factors that we talked about. Awesome. This was helpful, Vaishali. I I hope it reaches a lot of people, and I hope a lot of people, once they go through this conversation, get at least curious about it, and at least try looking for solutions that can essentially help them lead better lives. Because after 60, as you said, you should look at it as the prime of your life, because you have more time, you can be focused on yourself, right? You don't have the pressures, and if you can just make your body and mind work in your favor, that can be the best time of your life. All right, Vaishali, this was a good chat. Look forward to catch
Thanks
up
for
soon.
having me.
Thanks
Yes.
for joining, Vaishali.